Well, hello everybody and welcome. I am home and I am excited to share this amazing experience that I had in the last 2 weeks going off to Iceland with my son Darren. Of the 2 weeks we were away, 11 of those days was aboard the Greg Mortimer, an amazing ship which is part of the Aurora expeditions fleet. And I was very privileged and honored to be invited to come along on their ship so that I could share my experience of visiting Iceland with all of you. So what I decided to do was to take all the video and separate it into 2 sections. And today I'm going to share with you part 1, which is going to be about getting out in the kayaks. And that was just a real highlight for me on this trip. We also spent a lot of time going out in inflatable. So I'll share some of that with you. And we saw puffins. So I thought if I saw one puffin, I would be one happy person. But I saw a lot of puffins. So come along, and I am very happy to share this experience with you. But before you can do this, there's a few things you've got to do. First off, you've got to get a boat, and the guides help you with that and help you to adjust it so that it fits you. And we chose a double because I was doing most of the filming. Then, of course, you've got to get the right paddle. After selecting your boat and your paddle, it's time to get your gear. And that is your dry suit and your booties and, on and on, plus a PFD, because remember, you are in the North Atlantic. Getting fitted for that dry suit was a bit of an ordeal for me. They make the cuffs and the neck very, very tight. That's to keep you waterproof. But getting in and out of them, I tell you, that is an ordeal and a half, and I required assistance almost every time I put that on or took it off. Once we were ready, we were out the side door. Then we climbed into the inflatable and headed off to the destination that the guides had wanted for us to start this little journey. We towed the kayaks right behind us, and once we got to where they wanted us to start, we then had to get out of the inflatable and into the kayaks. So it wasn't all that straightforward, but it went without a hitch, amazingly, and we just journeyed on from there. We really couldn't have asked for a better evening. It was a perfect night on the water, and we really bonded as a little group of 7 people with the guides, the 2 guides, and we had a fabulous night. It was so very special and so calm and so very beautiful. The next morning, we woke to a new place and a new day. Well, this is the most gorgeous morning. Here we are out in absolutely divinely perfect paddling conditions here in Iceland. Oh, we couldn't ask for it to be any better than this, that's for sure. It's absolutely amazing. Last night's paddle was just something like a dream, and
We never got in actually until just before 11 o'clock at night. The sun is not really setting now. It's only a little bit darker for about 2.5 hours before the sun's up again. So, and even at that, you get up in the night and it's not dark. It's a pretty amazing experience to be here. We're just below the Arctic Circle, and today it is a beautiful, warm Iceland morning on the ocean. So we're just out here to enjoy. We have a wonderful group of paddlers. We also have the other guide who is in the Zodiac, not terribly far away. And we're all wearing this wonderful white zinc on our faces because the sun and the reflection are so bright. So what a thing to complain about. I'm the passenger. Yeah, that's why I brought him. He's the motor.
Feel the roof and avoid water filtration. Yeah, Aurora is
Well, we've been paddling just along the shore of this beautiful fjord. We passed some farms and some maybe totally undeveloped areas. We've seen lots and lots of shorebirds, some seals. A couple of them are the larger gray seals, which I don't know that I've seen before. I guess maybe we don't have them on the Pacific coast, or maybe we do. They're much bigger than the harbor seals, and some porpoises. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful way to spend the morning here in Iceland, and it is still as calm as can be. It's just like glass out here, which evidently is incredibly rare. So boy, did we get lucky with this. So we're just going to enjoy our paddle back towards the ship. The Zodiac will come out and pick us up, and we'll climb out of our kayaks into the Zodiac, and then the Zodiac will take us back to the ship for lunch, and then we will be taking off in the ship and heading to a new destination. We left the sunshine behind, and it would be a couple of days before we got out paddling again. In fact, we were headed north right to the Arctic Circle on Grimsy Island. We were met there by quite a lot of fog, but also by the opportunity to see hundreds of puffins. The group separated into various groups with separate interests, and I chose to wander the cliffs looking for these wonderful little birds. You can never see too many puffins, and here they were for sure. Would you believe that 60% of the world's puffin population actually come to Iceland to mate with their lifelong mate and raise a single chick? And while we were there, they were madly at it.
was an incredible sight. I tell you, you couldn't possibly count the number of birds that we saw that day. These little birds are kind of shaped like footballs, and I don't think they weigh very much, but they actually can dive down about 130 feet, and they use their wings to propel themselves through the water. I found that really quite fascinating, and they are busy catching dozens of little fish, and that's what their bills are adapted for doing, is holding many, many, many tiny fish, which they bring back for feeding the young. This day was a real highlight for me, and I also knew that in the afternoon we were going to get to take the inflatable back to the island to see some of these little birds from the ocean. And that's just what we did. The guides that we had throughout this trip were incredibly knowledgeable, very well informed, and shared their wealth of information with us freely. They were open to questions, and there was lots of interesting discussion. Here you see some basalt columns that were which were formed by the volcanic eruptions. And as the lava was cooling, the heat was causing stress fractures, which actually split this basalt into hexagonal columns. We also saw hundreds of these birds called fulmars, which are evidently related to the albatross, and they were nesting lower down than the puffins, and they were choosing to be on these rocky ledges. We'd seen them before, but here we were able to be quite close to them, and they weren't startled by us. They just let us watch them very quietly and slowly drift by. The water was ever so clear. It was just a wonderful way to spend the afternoon. There were so many birds flying in the air, and then there were just rafts of birds out on the ocean. I don't know which species of bird this is, maybe somebody knows, but it was a terrific afternoon, and then we headed back out to the ship to prepare to move on again. Our last day of paddling was definitely a different experience. It was what you would expect to find in Iceland.
This looks like Iceland. Yeah, this is Iceland paddling, folks. It's pretty amazing, and it's a wee bit chilly, but we're okay. We are well suited up. But look at those mountains. Wow. And this North Atlantic Ocean is very cold. But we're being well taken care of, and we wouldn't be out here if our guides didn't think that this was a safe thing for us to do. Beautiful.
Iceland is actually full of thousands and thousands of waterfalls. You can't go far without seeing another waterfall. The beauty of this land is quite startling. It's so varied and dramatic. You know, so unlike the coast that we have here, as beautiful as it is. There's no trees in Iceland to speak of. There's some short ones, more like shrubs. But the volcanic ground here is quite new, and the climate is pretty harsh. So it is definitely different than where I'm from here on Vancouver Island, but I enjoyed it totally. had quite a beautiful paddle down the fjord here, and we had a wind at our back pushing us, and as the wind moved us further and further along, it was slowly building up, and then there were some gusts that came along out of nowhere, it seemed, and it was decided to call a halt to the paddling that day.
Yes.
I didn't get there fast enough.
Everybody pitched in and helped pull up the kayaks to the high water mark, and the guides were going to take us back, and then they were coming back to pick up the kayaks, and they were going to actually put them across the width of the inflatable. There's Idu, he's one of our guides, and Anula, the other, and looking after us so well, and they found this tiny little beach that was enough room for us to just nose our kayaks up on, and they headed us back. We had quite an amazing trip in the inflatable going back, because we were now going into the headwind. But Idu was an amazing driver, and it was a lot of fun. But it was pretty darn bumpy. Traveling by boat is a special experience all round, but to me the most fun is getting out in the small boats, whether it is an inflatable or whether it's a kayak or a canoe. You can just get so much closer to the water, you get closer to the land, you get into sea places that you couldn't go in a big ship. And really, the guides were so amazing. They were top drawer. And the people that I got to paddle with were fabulous people. And I really felt that overall this was probably the highlight of my trip. Plus, of course, having my son along with me. So stay tuned. I'm going to be putting up the next video in another week or so. And I'm really anxious to share all of those adventures, the land adventures with you. So I'll see you then.